Well, the camera looks wonky. I feel like I'm at an angle. I am. My bad. Lord, I think I've been wonky the last couple of days. I apologize. Nobody said anything. Camera's off center. Apologize. Okay, now we're ready. So it is February 2nd. Happy Groundhog Day. Hopefully your day is not the same tomorrow as it was today and it carries on, not like the movie Groundhog Day. We are going to start off with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Deliver us from evil, for thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Okay, let me work on this real quick. Hang on one second. Need to get some things squared away. Thought I was ready, and I'm not, and I apologize. So give me 1 minute, and if you're driving, that's great. Give you time to just kind of chill for a minute. Should have already had this done. Got 14 other things that I was working on. I was working on my Facebook Live posts. If you're not a part of those, you probably should be. I've been doing those for 7 years. Look me up on Facebook. And I do a Monday Night Live. They had about 7 years worth. They took them all down because they don't keep up with, I guess, like YouTube. They keep up with it forever. Facebook doesn't do that anymore. So they stay there for a month and then they go away. But I also do them on Instagram. So give me 1 second to get this squared away. I'm trying to get my breakdown stuff put in, and I thought I had it already done, and I apologize. Been doing pretty good. This is the first time I've had to stall. Okay, we're almost there. Okay. So tonight we are going to read from Exodus 15, let's make sure I got this right, 15, 19 through 17, 7, Matthew 22, 1 through 33, Psalms 27, 1 through 6, and Proverbs 6, 20 through 23. So here we go. Exodus 15, 19 through 17, 7. Yes, Pharaoh, horses, and chariots and riders went into the sea, and God turned the waters back on them, but the Israelites walked on dry land right through the middle of the sea. Miriam, the prophetess, Aaron's sister, took the tambourine, and all the women followed her with tambourines, dancing. Miriam led them in singing. Sing to God, what a victory. He pitched horse and rider into the sea. Moses led Israel from the Red Sea on to the wilderness of Shur. They traveled for 3 days through the wilderness without finding any water. They got to Marah, but they couldn't drink the water at Marah. It was bitter. That's what they called the place Marah, bitter. And the people complained to Moses, so what are we supposed to drink? So Moses cried out in prayer to God. God pointed him to a stick of wood. Moses threw it in the water, and the water turned sweet. That's the place where God set up rules and procedures, and that's where he started testing them. God said, if you listen obediently to how God tells you to live in his presence, obeying his commandments and keeping all his laws, then I won't strike you with all the diseases and afflictions of the Egyptians. I am God, your healer. They came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees. They set up the camp there by the water. On the 15th day, on the second month, they had left Egypt. The whole company of Israel moved on from Elim to the wilderness of Sin, which is in between Elim and Sinai. The whole company of the Israelite complained against Moses and Aaron there in the wilderness. The Israelites said, why didn't God let us die in the comfort in Egypt, where we had lamb stew and all the bread we could eat? You brought us out here in the wilderness to starve us to death, the whole company of Israel. God said to Moses, I'm going to rain bread down from the skies on you. The people will go out and gather each day's ration. I'm going to test them to see if they'll live according to my teachings or not. On the 6th day, when they prepare what they have gathered, It will turn out to be twice as much as their daily ration. Moses and Aaron told the people of Israel, "This evening you will know that I am God. You will know that it's God who brought you out of Egypt, and in the morning you will see the glory of God." Yes, he listened to your complaints against him. You haven't been complaining against us, but against God. Moses said, "Since it will be God who gives you meat for your meal in the evening and your fill of bread in the mornings, it is God who will have listened to your complaints against him. Who are we in all of this? You haven't been complaining to us. You've been complaining to God." Moses instructed Aaron, "Tell the whole company of Israel, come near to God. He's heard your complaints." When Aaron gave out the instructions to the whole company of Israel, they turned to face the wilderness. And there it was, the glory of God visible in the clouds. God spoke to Moses, "I've listened to the complaints of the Israelites. Now tell them, at dusk you will eat meat, and at dawn you will eat your fill of bread, and you will realize that I am God, your God." That evening, flew, quail flew in and covered the camp, and in the morning there was a layer of dew all over the camp. When the layer of dew had lifted, there on the wilderness ground were fine flaky something, fine as frost on the ground. The Israelites took one look and said to another one, "Manhu, what is that?" They had no idea what it was. So Moses told them, "It's the bread God has given us to eat. And these are God's instructions. Gather enough for each person, about 2 quarts per person. Gather enough for everyone in your tent." The people of Israel went to work and started gathering, some more, some less. But when they measured out what they had gathered, those who gathered more had no extra, and those who gathered less weren't short. Each person had gathered as much as they needed. Moses said to them, "Don't leave any of it until morning." But they didn't listen to Moses. A few of the men kept back some of it until morning. It got wormy and smelled bad, and Moses lost his temper with them. They gathered it every morning, each person according to need. Then the sun heated up and it melted. On the 6th day they gathered twice as much bread, about 4 quarts per person. Then the leaders of the company came to Moses and reported. Moses said, "This is what God was talking about. Tomorrow is the day of rest, a holy Sabbath to God. Whatever you plan to bake today and whatever you plan to boil today. Then set it aside, the leftovers, until morning." They set it aside. They set aside what was left until morning, and Moses had commanded it, and it didn't smell bad, and there were no worms in it. Moses said, "Now eat it. This is the day, a Sabbath for God. We won't find any of it on the ground today. Gather it every day for 6 days, but the seventh day is Sabbath. There won't be any of it on the ground." And on the seventh day, some of the people went out to gather anyway, but they didn't find anything. God said to Moses, "How long are you going to disobey my commands and not follow my instructions? Did you see that God has given you the Sabbath? So on the 6th day, he gives you bread for 2 days. So each of you stay home. Don't leave home on the seventh day." So the people quit working on the seventh day. The Israelites named it manna. What is it? I guess manna means what is it? Sorry. It looked like coriander seed, whitish, and it tasted like a cracker with honey. Moses said, "This is God's command. Keep a 2 quart jar of it, an omer, for future generations so they can see the bread that I fed you in the wilderness after I brought you out of Egypt." Moses told Aaron, "Take a jar and fill it with 2 quarts of manna. Place it before God, keeping it safe for future generations." Aaron did what God commanded. He set it aside. Aaron did what God commanded Moses. He set it aside before the testimonial to preserve it. The Israelites ate the manna for 40 years until they arrived at the land where they would settle down. They ate manna until they reached the border into Canaan. According to ancient measurements, an omer is 1/10 of an ephah. Could you imagine eating the same thing for 40 years? Y'all complain about leftovers. Directed by God, the whole company of Israel moved on by stages from the wilderness of Sin. They set camp at Rephidim, and there wasn't a drop of water for people to drink. The people took Moses to task. "Give us water to drink." But Moses said, "Why pester me? Why are you testing God?" But the people were thirsty for water there. They complained to Moses, "Why did you take us from Egypt and drag us out here with our children and our animals to die of thirst?" Moses cried out in prayer to God. Why? What can I do with these people? Any minute now they'll kill me. God said to Moses, Go on out ahead of the people, taking with you some of the elders of Israel. Take the staff you used to strike the Nile, and go. I'm going to be present before you there on the rock of Horeb. You are to strike the rock, water will gush out of it, and people will drink. Moses did what he said, with the elders of Israel right there watching. He named the place Massa, testing place, and Meribah, quarreling, because of the quarreling of the Israelites and because of their testing of God, when he said, Is God here with us or not? So the breakdown of Exodus 15:19 through 17:7 says, God parts the seas, then provides water and manna. But the people still complain. The lesson: miracles don't eliminate the need for trust. God proves he is the provider daily, not just dramatically. When they test God at Massa and Meribah, it shows how quickly fear replaces faith. When comfort fades, God is patient, but he's training them to depend on him, not circumstances. Ouch. Matthew 22, 1 through 33, Jesus responded by telling still more stories. God's kingdom, he said, is like a king who threw a wedding banquet for his son. He sent out servants to call in all the invited guests, and they wouldn't come. He sent out another round of servants, instructing them to tell the guests, Look, everything is on the table. The prime rib is ready for carving. Come to the feast. They only shrugged their shoulders and went off, one to weed his garden, another to work in his shop, the rest, with nothing better to do, beat up on the messengers, and they killed them. The king was outraged and sent his soldiers to destroy those thugs and level the city. Then he told his servants, We have a wedding banquet all prepared, but no guest. The ones I invited weren't up to it. Go out into the busiest intersections in town and invite anyone you find to the banquet. The servants went out to the streets and rounded up everyone they laid eyes on, good and bad regardless. And so the banquet was on, every place filled. When the king entered and looked over the scene, he spotted a man who wasn't properly dressed. He said to him, Friend, how dare you come in here looking like that? The man was speechless. Then the king told the servants, Get him out of here fast. Tie him up and ship him to hell, and make sure he doesn't get back in. That's what I mean when I say many get invited, only a few make it. That's when the Pharisees plotted a way to trap him into saying something damaging. They sent their disciples with a few Herod's followers mixed in to ask, Teacher, we know you have integrity. Teach the way of God accurately. Teach the way of God accurately. Are indifferent to popular opinion, and don't pander to your students. So tell us honestly, is it right to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Jesus knew they were up to no good. He said, Why are you playing these games with me? Why are you trying to trap me? Do you have a coin? Let me see it. They handed him a silver piece. This engraving, what does it look like? Whose name is on it? They said, Caesar. Then give Caesar what is his, and give God what is his. The Pharisees were speechless. They went off shaking their heads. The same day, Sadducees approached him. This is the party that denies any possibility of resurrection, they asked. Teacher, teacher, Moses said that if a man dies childless, his brothers is obligated to marry his widow and father a child with her. Here's a case where there were seven brothers. The first brother married and died, leaving no child, and his wife passed to his brother. The second brother had also left her children childless, then the third, and on, all seven. Eventually the wife died. Now here's our question. At the resurrection, whose wife is she? She was a wife to each of them. Jesus answered, You're off base on two counts. You don't know what God said, and you don't know how God works. At the resurrection, we're beyond marriage. As with angels, all of our ecstasies and intimacies then will be with God. And regarding your speculation on whether the dead are raised or not, don't you read your Bibles? The grammar is clear. God says, I am, not was. The God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, the living God defines himself not as God of dead men, but of the living. Hearing this exchange, the crowd was much impressed. So the breakdown of Matthew 22, 1 through 33 says Jesus exposes empty religion. The wedding banquet shows God invites all, but excuses, pride, and distractions keep many out. Then Jesus silences religious traps, giving Caesar what's Caesar and God what's God's. The whole life belongs to him, and he reminds us God is the God of living, not dead traditions. Faith is alive, active, and obedient. So when you're supposed to give Caesar what Caesar's, that's in my personal opinion. I read that and I think the government's going to get what theirs out of my paycheck. Immediately after that, I have to give God what's his. My 10% of what I make is what I'm supposed to give God when I get paid every 2 weeks. That's just how I look at it. If you look the same way or if you want to comment, that's great. We can talk about it. Just my opinion. Psalms 27, 1 through 6. Light, space, zest, that's God. So with him on my side, I'm fearless, afraid of no one and nothing. When vandal hordes ride down and ready to eat me alive, those bullies and thoughts fall flat on their face. When besieged, I'm calm as a baby. When all hell breaks loose, I'm collected and cool. I'm asking God for one thing, only one thing, to live with him in his house my whole life long. I'll contemplate his beauty, I'll study at his feet. That's the only quiet, secure place in a noisy world. Wow, isn't that true? The perfect getaway, far from buzz of traffic. God holds my head and shoulders above all who try to pull me down. I'm headed for this place to offer anthems that will raise the roof. Already in singing God's songs, I'm making music to God. Psalms 27, 1 through 6 says, David declares fearless confidence. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? When God is your focus, enemies shrink. One desire stands above all, to dwell in God's presence. To dwell in God's presence. Victory starts in worship before it even shows up in battle. So I gotta, that's the only quiet place. I gotta underline that because that's amazing. This is the only quiet and secure place in a noisy world, is being in God's presence. Isn't that the truth? Lastly, we got Proverbs 6, 20 through 23. Good friend, follow your father's good advice. Don't wander off from your mother's teachings. Wrap yourself in them from head to foot. Wear them like a scarf around your neck. Whether you walk, they'll guide you. Wherever you walk, they'll guide you. Whenever you rest, they'll guard you. When you wake up, they'll tell you what's next. For sound advice is a beacon. Good teaching is a light. Moral discipline is a path. Okay, that's all I got for tonight. February 2nd, Groundhog Day. We will see you tomorrow. And if you are available, you need to go look at my Facebook page because I talk about spending time with your spouse, saying I really appreciate that. Spending some quality time with your spouse and letting them know how much you appreciate them. Guys, if no one told you today, I love you. Have a better than good night. And we will see you tomorrow.